Welcome to the new Big 12, where Shedeur Sanders is helping us all and Utah is hurting us all. Let's get locked on Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor. It's the afternoon edition where we take a look around the Big 12. It's brought to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on YouTube. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we're talking about Utah and the overhype and why this is happening again and how this hurts us in the long run. And just the opposite from Colorado, how Travis Hunter and specifically Shedeur Sanders in this case is going to help all of us in the Big 12. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Let's start with Utah. Utah. When will Utah learn? When will the nation learn, apparently? Because Vegas released their odds to win the national championship in the 2025 college football season this week. And they said the best odds in the Big 12, Kansas State, okay, sure, and Utah. 2-7 in the Big 12, 5-7 overall, Utah from last year. You want to give them 3-7 in the Big 12 because they beat Baylor when they actually had Cam Rising? Sure, fine, I'll give you that. But where does this end with the Utah hype? I seriously could not believe we were talking about the year 2025 and saying, nope, Utah's got the best chance to win the national championship from the Big 12. Therefore, probably the best chance to win the Big 12 championship. And then on this Tuesday morning, released their projected brackets. They're way too early brackets for the 2025 college football playoff. And sitting there in the semifinals as the 3 seed, the Utah Utes. Based on what? What? Because they got a couple BYU guys in the portal? Because Isaac Wilson is coming back. Devin Dampier, that's the guy you're going to say? Like, that's what's going to take them to the playoff? You expect this team to jump from 5-7 to the playoff after losing the guy that everyone said was, oh, once he gets back, Utah will be great. He's not even playing. Cam Rising's not playing. I don't know if Vegas knows that. I don't know if On3 knows that. But where the hell is this coming from? Like, what happened to Arizona State, Iowa State, Baylor, where you want to base it off recruiting and the transfer portal? What about Tech? What about BYU? BYU won 11 games last year. And they're sitting there with worse odds than Kansas to win the Big 12 championship. What has gone wrong here? What is happening? And you know what really sucks about all of this is it's going to hurt the Big 12 in the end. Because these so-called experts can't get it right in the preseason. It's going to hurt the Big 12 at the end of the day. Because Utah's going to fall flat on their face. They're not even as good as they were in 2024. And everyone's going to say, well, look, the Big 12 stinks. Like, it was supposed to be Utah, and if it's not Utah, who is it? Because that's what people are going to think. That's what ESPN is going to think. That's what Paul Feinbaum is going to think. That's what Kirk Herbstreit's going to think. And that's what matters in this grand scheme of things. Arizona State went from last in the preseason poll last year to the college football playoff, to winning this great conference. And still people weren't convinced. Still people had them as massive David versus Goliath underdogs against UT. It's incredible the disrespect this conference already gets, but this is a reason why, and it's out of our control. Nobody in our conference, nobody in our network is saying, oh yeah, Utah is going to be the team that's going to win the conference. JT Wistersill of Locked On Utes is not shoving it down your throat that Utah is going to win the Big 12 next year. And I'd put them as, like, I don't know, the 6th or 7th best odds if things go right. Arizona State's better than them. BYU is better than them. Baylor's better than them. Iowa State's better than them. I would say Tech is better than them. Kansas State's better than them. And they are at or above all of those schools in terms of odds, Kansas might still be better than them with Jalen Daniels coming back, and I'm not all that high on Kansas. TCU, a good offense going last year. If they had a semblance of a defense, they would have been a 10-win team. Utah was a lot farther away from that. They were a lot farther away from being a 10-win team than TCU was. So I don't understand where this is coming from for Utah. And it's just like, it feels like it's only year 2 of it, but it feels like, oh, here we go again. Same song and dance. We're just going to convince ourselves that Utah is the team. And look, I think they have a good program. I really like Whittingham. But you just, with all that the Big 12 has coming back this year, it's just amazing to me that you say, oh yeah, that's the team. Like what stops you from saying Kansas is the team? They were 5-7 last year, a more impressive 5-7, if you can call it that, than Utah was. I'm fair in saying that. They beat more ranked teams. They had a better identity than Utah did. Utah had a pretty damn good defense. Kansas had a pretty damn good offense. They bring their quarterback back, one who can actually, put points on the board. And yet Utah is the one that we're saying that's the 5-7 team that's going to go win the national championship this year, and not Kansas. And by the way, Kansas should have like the 5th or 6th best odds in this conference. But it's amazing how we just cherry pick this. We just throw darts at the board. Oh, Utah. Yeah, Utah. Remember they made the Rose Bowl. Let's just throw them in there. Doesn't make any sense to me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you've got a reason why Utah should win this conference, please let me know. I'm sure there are plenty of vocal Utah fans out there that would love to let us all know. Let me know in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. We're bringing you this Big 12, greater Big 12 content every afternoon on top of our Baylor content in the morning. Coming up next, I talked with Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 on why Shedeur Sanders going number 1 overall is going to help all of us. That's next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, because guess what, folks? Super Bowl 59 is here. And it's not too late to get in on the action with America's #1 sportsbook. And they gave me the read that actually had the pre-playoff one, so I have to switch it. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
Cameron Stewart of Locked On Baylor. Newest projections have Shedeur Sanders as the #1 pick in the NFL draft in 2025. Now, this has been met with pushback because everyone likes to hate the kid. I don't really know why. We watched him play against Baylor, a pretty good defense. He did well enough to win. Hail Mary, go win the game.
Himself, basically, yeah.
Really, the only time that we saw him, maybe 2 games we saw him just really lay an egg, were that Nebraska game and the BYU game in the bowl. Outside of that, he played. He did things that were Heisman-esque, things that you want in a possible franchise quarterback. Reminds me a lot of CJ Stroud at Ohio State. When he was picked by the Texans, most people were like, oh, this guy is not that good. And
they missed out on Bryce Young.
Yeah, it's like, oh, his IQ test was low.
The Wonderlic, yeah. Not Vince Young low, but low.
Like, he's not smart enough to be an NFL quarterback, and then he steps in day one and makes the Texans a contender. I think Shedeur Sanders could be that. The Big 12 is about to land not just the Heisman Trophy winner, but the #1 overall draft pick, and they're 2 different guys. Granted, same team, but that team went 9-4 this season, 9-3 in Big 12 play, didn't make the conference title. This isn't a matter of Texas, per se, winning the Big 12, having a Biletnikoff winner, the Heisman winner, and a different guy being the #1 overall draft pick who's a big DN. This is Colorado, who went 9-4, dominating at the top of college football. Do you think that has a trickle effect to a Baylor, to a Texas Tech, to the rest of the Big 12? Can we count on Colorado being a breadwinner for this conference?
Yes. If Dion is there, sure. Like Deion is going to always attract that kind of talent. I mean, you're seeing it this year with their recruiting class, even with Shador and Travis out the door. They're reeling in some of the top high school talent in America.
Yep.
And we know that that's not even Deion's strength. His strength is the portal. So yes, I absolutely think that Colorado can be that, and therefore it probably does have a trickle down effect for everyone else. We talked about it on the Squad Show a couple of weeks ago. Like Deion leaving the conference when we thought that was a real possibility is bad for business. It's bad for business for us writing headlines, but worse for the product of football in this conference. So yeah, I absolutely can see that. And in terms of, and what I love about looking at NFL draft rather than, should this team get in here or should this guy get this kind of respect? Like the NFL, for the most part, doesn't care what conference you come from. They don't care. They don't care what Kirk Herbstreit thinks of the conference. They don't care what teams should be in the college football playoff. They don't give I won't say it. Say it. It's a family program. But like that's where you're going to start to see like a guy like Shador Sanders going 1 overall, possibly 1-2, by the way, in the Big 12, to where us as fans are like, yeah, dude, we know they can ball. Like, you know what I mean? The 2 quarterbacks facing off in the Super Bowl are Big 12 guys, for the second time in 3 years. The guy, the matchup last year was an all Big 12 matchup. So you can talk all we want about how this conference, it's not the big boys. Yeah, just the guys that succeed in the NFL. And I think Shador is going to succeed in the NFL. Number one, it's tough. It's tough. I think they might like Cam Ward as well, but Ward is not as polished a quarterback as Shador Sanders is. Like Shador, people they try to make him out to be something he's not. They think he's a diva because he's the coach's kid. And I think he's really slapped back that narrative most of this year. He kind of threw his teammates under the bus against Nebraska, but everything after that has been positive. He's been a leader. He gets thrown in as this dual threat gunslinger, and he's neither of those things. He's not a running threat. I don't know why that reputation has found him. And he's not a gunslinger. He completes 74% of his passes, man. That's like best in the country kind of stuff. And when you're looking for the NFL, this is an aside, but when you're looking for a quarterback at the NFL, accuracy is better than anything. So yes, this is good for the Big 12, Drake.
He's good at the football. Looking at NFL, CBSSports.com's NFL mock draft, and what they have, I think this is the more fascinating storyline than even Shador being number 1 overall. They have Chris Trapasso as the Las Vegas Raiders trading up for the number 1 overall pick to select Shador Sanders. That almost feels, it is. It feels like a slap in the face to, according to reports, Las Vegas says they will not talk to Deion Sanders, not interested in Deion, despite his camp having interest in them. Then they draft up just to take his son. I know he's not about to pull a, was it Eli Manning that held out? I was like, I don't want to go play for you.
Did not want to play for San Diego.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that level, but his son gets drafted by the organization where we all thought, well, if his son does get drafted by them, certainly Deion will be the head coach. Now they didn't want him to be the head coach, and they draft his son.
Deion has a part to play in this, by the way.
Okay.
He'll say what he can, but Deion has a part to play in all of this. The way that Archie Manning did for Eli, It happens, man. It happens. It would be weird.
It would not be, it'd be a little awkward, I think. Well, Tom Brady walks in the room, and that's the guy that didn't want Deion, and now you draft his son. Would that create a rift? Do you think, Nick Maravets was on the show yesterday on Locked On Big 12 and talked at length about how he's not worried about Deion's future success without Shador Sanders being in that program. Are you worried about Deion being the LeVar Ball of NFL dads?
Well, see, that was kind of the thing I was thinking of when you were winding up that question well, LeVar didn't get an assistant coaching job with the Lakers. It turned out okay. Nor the Hornets either, but I think he's big in that record company now. But see, here's where it's tough. LeVar was so easy to troll as NBA people. Yeah. You would just bring up his average like they do with Stephen A. Smith. Like Dion this shouldn't matter, but it does, is a Pro Football Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And he's a very influential voice in football.
His 30 for 30. Like, I don't know where we got an arc of Dion being bad guy, because in that 30 for 30 drop, people were like, yeah, man, that dude's badass.
Yes. And then he went back to villain, and now he's back kind of, I think, for the most part, in the good graces of the footballing public. That school thing in Texas, that was shady. So do I think he becomes that? Probably not. Like, I do think Dion tries to stay out of it for the most part. I think he'll have something to do with where Shedeur goes in the draft, in terms of, like, they can control those interviews and everything. But I think he will more or less stay out of it, especially if he is still coaching at Colorado, which looks like it will be the case for a couple of years here. I don't think he'll put Shedeur into too much hot water. And you know what? If he does, Shedeur has shown he can kind of handle it. Like, the things are going well at Colorado, but it is still more of a circus than most other programs in college football. And Shedeur lived up to the hype. He lived up to the expectations that he led that team. And that he was better than most people thought he was going to be, just thought Nepo baby. And they were better than most people thought they were going to be this year at Colorado. So I think Shedeur can handle it. I really do.
There was a great tweet probably a couple weeks ago that went viral. It said, brother just woke up from an 8-year coma. And the number one quote tweet was, tell him Braun's still going, which is a great, great quote tweet. The number 2 one was, first question, LeVar flopped, right? All the kids flopped, right? Tell me LeVar flopped. No, all 3 of them made it, though. One of them not on the basketball court.
Yeah.
That is
one of them's a sympathetic figure, which is wild. Like, Lonzo should be having this great career right now. And that's the wildest of all. Not that the kid did anything wrong, but it's like, one of them's playing on a max contract. The other has the biggest song in the country right now. And the third one is a really good player who's never going to realize potential because of freak injuries.
What is it, like Latvia or Lithuania? He's like, just don't send me back. Please don't send me back. Please.
God, no.
And LeVar went away. He stopped talking. He was like, I told you.
It's wild. It is wild.
Pretty darn cool. That's Cameron Stewart at Real Cam Stewart on the Bird app. Still the Bird app, right?
Yeah. Larry Bird, yeah. The following is a message from Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deduction possible, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracies, all so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Thank you once again to Drake for having me on the show, talking a little Big 12, how it's going to help out schools like Baylor and TCU and Tech and Arizona State and all those good schools. Let me know what you guys think about Shedeur going number 1 overall and whether that's a fallacy, whether that can help the Big 12 get some respect. And does it hurt the Big 12's respect to just keep anointing Utah at the beginning of every year, no matter how poorly they do the year before? Let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping our 2+ episodes per day on YouTube. And then find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on the move, honestly, listening to the podcast helps me out even more. So that's what I do with all mine. I don't watch them on YouTube, but either way, it's helping out the channel a ton. So thank you so much for making it your first and second listen today and every day. And we will see you tomorrow on Locked On Baylor.